Can you
It's
show?
great.
I just started the recording. Can you show that again? Because that was a
Oh
really
yeah.
cool container.
So, hmm,
Oh, that's so
fun
sweet.
little ampersand,
Love it.
and then inside are little health potions.
Health potions. Oh, I
They're
need that.
adorable.
How much? Like everything's gotta be a little aesthetically fun in this game. We have so much out there. See, that's the one good thing when we have this like crazy consumer society. It's like at least we get tiny shaped like fun.
Exactly. Get some whimsy in there.
Yes, yes, very important. All right, I think we should just go ahead
All
and
right.
get into this. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, so
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay, so hello everybody. We are doing another Game Master for Hire little interview with Mahria today. So, Mastermind Adventures is a team of creative individuals who are conquering isolation and loneliness through play, which is super awesome. Something we're doing is a little social spotlight so that you can meet all of our Game Masters for Hire. One of our Game Masters is the wonderful Mahria here today. And today we're going to be talking about.
Hello.
Hello! She's arrived. And we're gonna be talking about character creation today. So, do you want to just go ahead and tell everyone who may not know what is character creation?
So, when you're playing an RPG, you are playing a character. Basically, character creation is one of my favorite parts because it's who your character is, trying to figure out what they're good at, what they're bad at, their personality traits, what they look like, stuff like that. So if you're playing a video game, usually you do something like, oh, well, a lot of people spend a lot of time at the character creation bar. So you decide what their face looks like, what their eyes look like, what are their ears like, what's their hairstyle, what are they dressed like. But for a tabletop RPG, not only are you figuring out all those things, but you're also figuring out, well, what's their background? What was their life before they decided to go out adventuring into the world? What are some things that they picked up along the way? What's their personality like? Are they awkward? Can they talk their way into any situation or out of any situation? Do they get in trouble based off of like, are they like little kleptomaniacs, and do they get in trouble because they get sticky fingers? So that's one of my favorite parts about about doing D&D or any tabletop RPG is figuring out what the character is like.
Yeah, that's awesome and a great way to explain it. I think it just occurred to me, it's just like writing a book, only it's so much more in depth because you actually get to like be this person and control where they're going to go and what's going to happen. Well, to an extent.
Yeah.
There's always
and I come from a theater background, so figuring out what the character is going to be like is one of my favorite things because I get to act it out in front of my friends, which is super fun. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite parts about it as well.
Is that were you drawn to theater or were you drawn to gaming first?
Theater. So I started to do theater when I was in elementary school, and I would do like little make-believe nonsense with my toys, and with my sister, and I would be like, I'm gonna be the bad guy today, so this is what's gonna happen. And I remember getting very annoyed with my sister, and she'd be like, no, I'm the victor for this one. I'm like, but you're the bad guy. I remember viscerally that. But once I got into theater, that was like a great little outlet. I was like, oh wow, this is like perfect for me. I get to pretend and do all this cool stuff. And it wasn't until I was in high school when I figured out, oh, hey, Dungeons and Dragons is a thing that I could play, but I couldn't find a group to play in. And then I didn't play until after college because I didn't want to, I was awkward and I didn't want to ask the people who were actually my friends to, if I want to play. And it's silly now because I look back and I remember when I first started playing with them, it was after college. And they were like, we wish you played with us sooner. Or we wish you asked about it because we would have loved to have you. So one of my, I still remember my first D&D character, and she was a disaster bard who drank and did all the drugs and slept with all the people. And she had an ocarina as her main instrument. And I remember having so much fun with that character because she was so out of character for me. And I remember having so much fun exploring that style of like person because she was a wild child. And even though I've got fun hair and tattoos and junk, I'm not that wild.
Not that
so it was,
wild.
so it was super nice to be able to do some of that. And I really like playing in games where you're comfortable enough to explore aspects of your personality that you might not be able to in, happenstance, because whether you're uncomfortable or you're building up comfort as well, which is nice.
Of course. Yeah, and it's so safe. It's like a safe way you get to be like, all right, what does trying on this mask or this outfit or this pair of shoes look like to me?
Yeah. Or even like this is a part of me that I'm interested in exploring more because I haven't been able to, because I haven't felt comfortable, or, et cetera. And you have a safe spot to try it out, which is nice.
Exactly. I think it's funny what you said about how like we have these intrinsic like anxieties about asking people to play with us, and it's like I think that's one of the coolest things about being part of this community and working with kids too. It's just like you realize that everyone just wants to play.
Yes, they do.
Yes, we all just want to play.
We just want to play games.
We touched on little bits of your favorite parts of character building, but let's just get even more into it. What is your personal favorite aspect of character building?
Oh, I love coming up with reasons why my characters are the way they are. That's one of my favorite things. Because there's a reason why people act the way they act. It's based off of their history, based off of what experiences they have, whether those experiences are positive or traumatic. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to be able to come up with reasons why my character would behave a certain way, and to justify actions or the way I would say something as that character. So I really enjoy coming up with those reasons, and they can be as simple as writing a paragraph of a backstory, or writing a page, or even just jotting down a couple of ideas. A character that I play right now, I've been playing her for, like 4 years at this point. And I started her off as like, all right, I know these things about her. She doesn't have parents and she was raised in a temple, and she has no social skills because she was so isolated. Really? But she's also this big buff woman, half orc, who's like superimposing with a very tiny voice because she's awkward. So like, and I didn't come up with a backstory for her until like a year or two into the game, because I was like, okay, this game is no longer like a once a week show up if you can. This has become an actual campaign. So then I sat down and went, okay, well, who were her parents? What were they like? If they were PCs, what were their classes and everything, and like what were they like? What was the reason why she didn't know them? Like, why did they leave her behind in this temple? Because they clearly wanted her. So I had to come up with all these things to really hone in on, like, even playing it in general. Those ideas started to come to me as I was playing this character. I'm like, okay, well, she does not understand. She does not get when she does not realize if people are being friendly with her, and she has a hard time reading people even though she's wise. Like, she's just blindly trusting. She'll, even if it's somebody who does not deserve her trust, she will trust them at first. And it's led into some situations. And that was one example of, I just built a character because I just wanted to play some D&D. I was desperate for a game, and it turned into this huge like backstory. I have so much, hold on, like I have character art of her, like yeah, here, hold on, like that's her and her husband. So she's married now. So like she's gone through some growth, which is super awesome.
And you but like her, it's like you got to know her as you're playing her more. It's like a real relationship, right? Because you're like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I will have characters like oh goodness. I was playing in a Starfinder game, and I made a rat folk, they're Yusoki, a rat folk technomancer, which is like a wizard. And her shtick was, she's just nuts. And she's a mad scientist. And didn't come up with too much of a backstory because it was a lot simpler. And basically she got kicked out of school because she blew up the library.
Oh, wow.
She didn't mean to, just her experiment got a little out of hand, and she blew up an entire wing of her school.
Oh, man.
And expressing herself. It was hilarious. But one of the other people who was playing with us made a twin. So our characters were twins, and our characters were both nuts in the exact same way, just little balls of chaos wherever we went. And it was so much fun because we didn't even have too much of a backstory between the two of them. It was just, we're twins. She's into mechanics, I'm into doing magic, and we're inseparable. And if anything were to happen to us, we would immediately turn chaotic evil because there would be nothing for us to live for.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun making that character. And again, it wasn't too much of a backstory, just little bullets. You don't need a huge backstory to make play a character.
Both. Yeah, it goes to show you can have both. Like, you can have those shorter games where you're like, all right, we're just gonna hyper focus on like these personality traits and these aspects, bless you, and or you know, you can go so in depth with it and be like, all right, this is gonna be a series, and we're gonna grow, and we're gonna learn, and we're gonna go on a year's journey.
Exactly.
I love
exactly.
It.
And it's funny because I have characters that I've played where I have written like that lengthy, tragic backstory as to why they are the way they are, and like that's even fun too. Or it could be incredibly silly. I made a character that was basically a Disney princess, but a total brat and a butt, and she didn't do any cleaning, and she was very entitled, and it was super fun. It was so much fun to play that type of character. And like her shtick was she ran away to be with her boyfriend who she wasn't supposed to be with, and he went through a portal first, and she showed up like. She went through the portal like a second after him, but showed up like 300 years later.
Oh, gee. See, lessons.
But they're elves. They're elves, so they're fine. They're elves. It was fine.
They've got long lifespan, so it'll all be good. It'll balance out.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it was so much fun.
I always wonder how many stories and like books and whatever have been created from like things like this taken too far. Like just, okay, like I get so attached to characters, you know? So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like so certain ones stay with me, especially if I've written them myself. So I can definitely see people who are gamers just being like, all right, this is too epic. People have to know your story.
Oh yeah, and like even some gaming groups, they will write fiction about their character and their other characters, and sometimes they might collaborate on that. So like that can be a huge thing as well.
Yeah, I love that. I've read really good fan fictions and gone out to find that like the people who wrote them became famous authors. I think I have it right there. City of Bones is one of them. They were a fan fiction writer beforehand, and then there are a few that I just look at like the really long fics that have been there for years and years, and I'm like, this is too good. They have to be an author, you know? And I'll find out. I'm like, oh, they are. So it's all connected.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, like if you write about something that you enjoy, then it comes easy, and then you can think, well, what kind of stories can I come up with on my own for different original characters? And that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you can build aspects, like you can build off of each other. Like I'm sure your first character and your second character and then your 100th character, you know, they have little inspirational bits of each other. They're kind of like a little family.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to ask you about making backstory for characters and just how you start and what your process is for doing that.
So when I come up with a character, I kind of come up with a concept, and that basically I usually form it off of a trope. So for example, the character that I've been playing for the past 6 years, my sweet half-orc child, I wanted to make a character that was awkward. Like awkward girl standing in the corner of the party, not wanting to be there because people are drinking beer, like that kind of a character. Because I usually play very charismatic characters who would be up there drinking with the other cool kids, and you know could talk their way out of anything. And I had not really played non-charismatic characters before, so I was like, I want to make this awkward, sweet, but like awkward will put her foot in her mouth more often than not, and I want to make that type of character. So when I was creating her, I was like, okay, well, the game I was playing, we were using the standard array for scores. So like in D&D, you've got 6 scores: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Charisma is the talky aspect, like you're good at talking. I put my lowest score, which was as an 8, in there.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, she's going to be bad at this.
Yes.
And I made sure she was wise. You know, she's a cleric, so she has to be able to cast spells based off her wisdom. So I did that first. And then I went and looked through the different backgrounds. So on D&D, there are different backgrounds, and those backgrounds can give you different things. So I picked for her an acolyte background. So that means she was in a temple for a good chunk of her life. And not only do you get certain like skills and stuff, you also get certain like quirks or flaws about your character. So let me see. I'll actually open this up because I can just go to D&D Beyond and I can tell you exactly what I did. All right, my characters, and where am I? There you are.
It's so cool to me, like something that just hit me now that I really, really love about gaming and D&D. It's just that, like how you're saying, oh, I want to explore the awkwardness or I want to explore the chaos. It's funny that we must subconsciously be drawn to these things because it's in game. It's the first thing we go to
absolutely.
in like a fantasy setting. Yeah, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool that the stuff we stay away from in real life is the first thing we go to there. It's like, there's no bad. It's all just like, we want to know as human beings. We just want to know this stuff. But anyway,
exactly.
That's the way my brain works. I'm like, it's all connected, all the things.
All right, so, and like what I like about D&D is that you can even like tweak them if this is not like, this is the nice thing about D&D. You can always tweak it, especially when it comes to background stuff. So for our personality traits, I wrote, nothing can shake my optimistic attitude. That was true for a very long time. However, characters grow just like people. So like there have been times where she has felt like that despair, and it was weird for her to do that, for to feel that, because she's usually like, no, everything's going to turn out fine in the end. I'm sure of it. I spent so long in the temple that I have little practical experience dealing with people in the outside world. She's even, like, me too. For her ideal, I picked charity, so she will always try to help those in need, no matter what the personal cost, which she has done. She's taken in orphans. She's been trying to help people along the way. She's been trying to protect her friends. For bonds, I owe my life to the priest who took me in when my parents left. So I tweaked it. It should be, with the original text, is I owe my life to the priest who took me in. And I just added when my parents left. Yeah. And for flaws, I wrote, I am blindly trusting. So like having that really helped me figure out a personality for this girl. So I could have like a little visual reminder of, oh yes, this is what this person is supposed to be like.
Yeah. So is that your standard way of brainstorming? Do you just get an outline and do you start with certain personality traits like good, bad, or do you go somewhere in the middle and then just go?
Yeah, so usually what I do is if I'm making a character, I'm deciding if they're a good person or a bad person, or if they're a person, where they can lean either way given the right circumstances. And for this character, I specifically wanted her to be a good person. And if I went to another character, so I will go back and I'll go to, that's Nettie, my little half-orc. But if I went to my halfling rogue, Eliza Trickfoot, oh goodness, this girl, she's a disaster. So she's a criminal.
Right off the bat.
She's a criminal. She's a thief. That's what she's good at. So
you gotta be good at something.
Yeah. So for example, like her ideal is freedom. She wants to be able to do whatever she wants, whenever she wants. For her personality traits, she always has a plan for what to do when things go wrong. She doesn't pay attention to the risks in a situation. Never tell me the odds. And the best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. So that tells you everything you need to know about her. She's she's such a little butt. I love her. Her bond, someone I loved died because of a mistake I made. That will never happen again. So that tells me, okay, that's something I'm going to add into my backstory. And for flaws, whenever I see something valuable, I can't help but think of anything else except how to steal it. So that's the type of character she is. That's just a couple of bullets. And for her character, she's chaotic neutral. So she could easily go to the good side if she's given, if she's with the right people, or she can easily go bad if her sticky fingers are encouraged.
Yeah, which she gets. What do you feed her? Like, which side will she go to?
Exactly. So I made this character, and this was a character where instead of using standard array, we rolled our stats. So I rolled very, very well for her. So like I made sure her dexterity was super high, and I made sure her charisma was super high, because that was the type of character I wanted to be. I wanted to be a smooth talker, and I wanted to be very sneaky. So I could, because she's a cat burglar, essentially.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's so cool. I like the bullet point model. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Do you ever take it further than that, or does it depend on the game whether you like write something out or make a character
Oh
do?
yeah.
Yeah.
So for like this character, I did that quick and I knew what kind of character I wanted to make. So what I did first with this one is I actually wrote a backstory. So here, if I go over here, I wrote a backstory. So like it is one, two, three, 4 paragraphs long. So it's lengthy. But essentially she was raised by her dad who taught her how to thief, how to do thieving, and they did all of their jobs together. They always worked together because she wanted to make him proud, and he was always very proud of her, always gave her a ton of praise when she was doing this stuff. So she would always try to do stuff to impress him. And somebody she loved died during a heist. So take a guess about who died.
Oh no, Dad.
Uh-huh. So
Oh.
she decided to get cocky during a job, and it resulted in her father dying. So she took a moment to kind of she tried to live clean. She tried to like not do any thieving because she was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to get hurt like that again. Absolutely not. And she was very bored being a locksmith. And so she ended up going like, you know what? I'm gonna go adventure because it's not thieving, but it's also not this boring life of being a locksmith. I'm gonna try this instead. And she ended up
Wow.
in the game making friends and all that jazz, and it was a good time.
Insightful. And that's a little life lesson there. It's like, what do you do? And she went on
Mm-hmm.
her adventures.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
you had mentioned rolling for stats, and then what was
Mhm.
the other option?
Oh, the standard array.
Hmm.
So when you're making a character, you can get your stats for your strength, your wisdom, all that jazz through a couple of different means. Excuse me. And one of the means is the standard array. The other means is to roll for it.
Okay.
So with standard array, basically, let's see if I can find this character I started to build. If you're doing standard array, let's go to character builder. Let's see. We're gonna go to abilities. So if I go to standard array, I get a certain set of scores. I get 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. And I can place them in any of those abilities. So if I wanted to make a strong character, I would probably put the 15 in strength. If I wanted to make a character that had low wisdom, so they aren't very insightful, they kind of walk into situations without thinking, I might put that 8 into wisdom. So that's one way that you can build a character. Another way is to roll dice. So essentially, the basic rule for doing manual or rolled stats is you roll 4d6, so 4 6-sided dice. I don't have any dice in here.
What? I've seen
I
your
don't
dice
there.
collection. How are there no
I know
dice?
it's in the other room. I've got dice everywhere except in this space. So
Okay, you're
basically, you
forgiven.
take
I'm
four.
sure they're being well cared for. They're
Oh,
being
I'm sure they're going to be fine. They'll be
yeah.
okay. But you take 4d6s, you roll them all at once, and you remove the lowest dice. So you remove the lowest die. So if I rolled a 6, a 4, a 4, and a 3, I take away the 3. I am left with a 14 as my total score.
Okay.
Um, and usually what I do if I'm running a game where I allow people to roll, I instead of letting them roll 6 times, I let them roll 7. So if there's a score that they don't like, they can replace it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
And people can replace it like they can replace their lowest score. Some people like having something that they're bad at. I'm a person who likes having something that they're bad at.
Yeah, it's
So
fun.
if I got like a 10 and I rolled an 8 and like my 8 was my lowest score, I would probably keep the 8 so my character would be bad at something.
Mm, I like
Because
that.
nobody's perfect, and it's a bit fun to like play off of your flaws.
Yeah.
Because if your character's good at everything, then it's like
Not a lot
Superman.
of
They're just a little boring.
yeah, yeah. There's not a lot of comedic material in there if you're good at everything, right? It's like it's fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like our coolest traits really are contained in our flaws, you know, and you get to build on
Exactly.
that in storytelling. So
Yeah, precisely.
awesome. Do you feel that either one of those is more preferential to you for create care in regards to character building?
Honestly, I like both ways because with standard array, you are guaranteed to have something that's bad. So, like, you are guaranteed to have an 8. You're guaranteed that 8 will be your lowest score. It might increase or decrease depending on what you decide to do in regards to race, or if you're using Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, what you decide to be like, because you can pick stats about which ones you're good at based off of your heritage, which is cool. But with Tasha's, they fix it so it's not like if you're an orc, you don't have to have a -2 to your intelligence because, it shouldn't be based off of your race. So you can put that, you can do something else. So I like standard array for that reason. However, if you roll dice and you got like a 6, ooh, that's so good. That's so great to have something bad. Or you can even roll, if you can get lucky and roll an 18, and wow, your character's very good at that skill. So there are benefits to both. I like them both for different reasons.
Cool. Thank you for explaining that. I didn't know the ins and outs of both sides. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
For people, I'm sure other people will find that as well. Wow, words were just difficult in that sentence.
It happens.
Run-on sentence, whatever. Okay, so how do you go about making NPCs?
All right, so when I make an NPC, usually I do the same thing. I start with an idea. This is what I want the character to be like. If that NPC is more than just a person that my players can talk to, I might roll a character sheet for them. So what I do is I'll go through the same process that I put my PCs through. I will roll stats, or I'll do standard array, and I'll build a character. That character is only going to be used in situations where, like, we're rolling for skills, or if those NPCs are fighting alongside my PCs, if they're fighting alongside the player characters. The reason I don't have NPCs with character sheets as enemies is because that can make it very difficult in regards to combat. Because player characters have all these cool abilities that monsters don't usually have. However, monsters have their own abilities that are super cool that the players don't have. So if I'm going to be making an NPC that's going to be a antagonist for my players, what I will do is I can build a basic character sheet just specifically for like certain skills, like the background stuff like that, because I make sure that my NPCs are not just 2-dimensional characters. I try to make sure that they have more than that. But but what I'll do is I can D&D Beyond has this great, oh my gosh, what is my hair even doing right now?
I love it. I think it's so awesome what it's doing right now.
D&D Beyond has this cool feature where you can customize your monsters. So what I would do is I would take a look at what I did with my NPC character sheet, be like, okay, that was something I liked and that was something I liked. Let me see if I can find a monster that's comparable to this character, and then I can tweak it, because you can make your own homebrew monster, and you can pull a monster that already exists and you can edit it so it can be what you want, essentially. It can be a little tricky because you don't want to make them too powerful, but you also don't want it to be easy. You want it to be a challenge, but you don't want to kill your players. I never want to kill my players. I just want to traumatize them a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a little bit of trauma, just a tiny bit. But what I do is I stick with my whole plan for what I do when I usually make my own characters, and I come up with a concept, like a trope, and then I pick, all right, well, what are some things about this character that can like come in later, especially if the PCs decide, hey, we like this character, we want to see more of it. So then you come up with more in regards to their backstory, why they do the things that they do, so they can become a more interesting character for the players to interact with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like that you make yours. I like that you make complex NPCs, because that can be
I try.
Times. Do you feel, are there any like resources? So I know you like to use tropes as an example, which, like, avid lovers of stories and things, we already know a lot of those. Most people will probably already have a few in mind, but is there anywhere people can go where they can maybe get some examples for what they can try out or stuff like that?
There is a very silly site. Hold on, let's see.
I'm very excited because I didn't prep you for this one, so I'm amped to see.
No. Hold on. Character. All right. Am I allowed to swear on here?
I think so. I'm sure we can put a little
Okay.
bit of the bloop over it because we're recording.
Um, the name of the site is who the fuck is my D&D character.com.
Oh my gosh, I already like
And it randomly generates a character concept. So you get, so for example, I just clicked on there and it went attentive half-elf cleric from a city no one else has ever heard of who hates the written word. And if I don't like that, I can refresh it. A talented tiefling cleric from an underground city who is haunted by the ghosts of those they kill.
That's so creative.
This is one fun way. A cautious elf warlock from an underground network of dragon caves who fights for undead rights. So these are just this is like just one that's random, but like you can get some good ideas out of this. Another thing I do, especially if I'm like trying to come up, sometimes even coming up with a name is super great. What I usually go is I go to fantasynamegenerators.com and you can look up different not only fantasy names, but also like names from all over the world. I do this when I'm making characters. I do this when I'm making NPCs. I do this when I'm making cities and stuff like that as well. I will just look up different names. And sometimes you can be like, I like that. I'm going to save that name for later. And then you can build a character around that as well.
Yeah, you can get so much inspiration from little things like names and just like any noun, really, person, place, thing. Like you can really go in and be like, oh, what's this name mean? And I can make a whole backstory about like the meaning of their name.
Mm-hmm. And even watching different D&D live streams, like what is it? There's the Adventure Zone, Critical Role. There's what is it? It's the Fantasy High. Fantasy High is another good one, and you can see the different characters that the people who play every week make. And even if it's something like the Adventure Zone, they have like three or four different games that they've played in where they each got to play different characters and different family members took a turn being the game master. And you get to see all these interesting character ideas, and you can even get ideas from that. My half-orc cleric girl, my original idea was like, well, I want to play a character that's like Keyleth from the first campaign of Critical Role, because she was this sweet half-elf druid who was sheltered and very awkward, and she was supposed to be like the leader of her people, and she was just very bad at it, and just super like not confident at first, and she builds her confidence. And I was like, I like that. She was like one of my favorite characters. I was like, I want to make a character that's an homage to her, not the exact same character, but an homage. Yes. And it was awesome. That was something that inspired me to make this character, because I hadn't played many uncharismatic characters.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that about you, is how excited you are to explore I don't want to say negative, because I don't believe that's what it is, but it's escaping me to find another explanatory word. But
what is it?
That.
Well, because it's like
challenging.
Not having confidence, and not having being a non-confident person. Ooh, God help you if you're not confident, because you will get picked on. You will get picked on so bad, and people will hate your people hate character. So many people just go, "Ugh, I don't like that character. They're so annoying," because they're not confident. So like it's difficult to do something like that as well, because like that was a problem that character had. A lot of people who watched the show hated Keyleth. They hated her so much. And I was like, but I liked her. I thought she was sweet, and I thought she was cute, and I really liked that she was awkward. I thought that was great. Like, it put her in so many funny situations, which were just interesting to watch.
Yeah, it is. I think it's like, really is like the greatest opportunity comes from your flaws. So if you want to have a more dynamic story and a more of a challenge, more of a character that gets to build themselves up, then you're going to want to have some of those drawbacks.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I love that about you. That's my favorite. It's my favorite. Okay, so what we're gonna get into some character sheets versus making monster stats, and I wanted to know what you think are the pros and cons of these two character sheets versus using monster stats.
Okay, so having a character sheet, it gives you a ton of information, which is great. And if you're making an NPC for a game and you want them to have all these personality things and you want them to have all these different spells and stuff, like it's nice to be able to have all of that in one spot. And if as a player, I can recognize where to find all of that information. However, the con to that is if you end up getting into a conflict with your players with that NPC, there's a good chance that your players will lose to an NPC that has a character sheet because they have all the same cool stuff that the players get. So for example, I made I run a game that takes place in the Critical Role universe every other Friday. And my players encountered the anti-party. There was basically like the anti-version of every single one of their party members. And they were like, are we going to have to fight these guys? I don't know if I want to fight these guys. I don't know. Like some people were like, oh, I want to fight them. I hate them. And other ones were like, I don't know if I want to do that. Oh no. They're like, they're messed up. What's going on? Yeah. And like, I had character sheets for all of these NPCs for this entire party. However, as I was building it, I was like, there's no way that my players will handle this, especially after like they were hunting a mammoth and they were going to be low on resources and stuff. I was like, okay, I don't want to put them up against a party of basically player characters because there's a good chance that I'm going to kill some of my players, and I don't want that. I don't like killing my players. If their characters die due to like resource management issues, or if their characters die because I rolled really well, yikes. Oh no, I feel badly. But like they're at least at a level where like if somebody did die, they could do something about it, which is nice. And looking at their different character sheets, I was like, I'm going to have to change this because I don't want to kill my party. I don't want to kill them outright. I want to give them a challenge. I don't want to kill them outright. So what I did was I went on to D&D Beyond and I looked at all the different monsters to see what matched up. So like, for instance, there was a bard. So I was like, okay, let me find a musician. Okay, cool. Here's some basic stats for a NPC, a monster that's a musician. And I added spells and stuff. So they still had some cool abilities, but it wasn't nearly as intense as if you were a player character with those abilities. And the downside for using monster stats is like, oh, but I want to do the cool ranger thing where they get to, do an extra attack and whatever. You know what? It's fine. You don't have to do that. You can have them do something else that's neat. And you can maybe like, okay, well, instead of, all right, that you made a Gloomstalker ranger, well then instead of them getting that extra shot in the first round, have them deal an extra point of damage if they hit. So have them deal an extra die worth of damage because they hit. And that makes it a little bit more, makes the players go, that's scary. What was that? And you're not going to outright kill somebody, yes. Which is nice.
Yes, I like that initiative. It's like we want to continue the game and we want to get people to be most alive.
Yeah. You can't play a game if everybody's dead.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not. I mean, maybe like zombie apocalypse world, but then we're getting back into the like rights for the undead, and it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So cool. So, do you have a preference between those two?
I do a combination of the two. So, I will typically use monsters for. I will typically use monsters if my players are going to be fighting them. Okay. If my players are going to be fighting alongside. Or rather, if NPCs are going to fight alongside my players, I will make them a character sheet to fight alongside with my players.
What do you think is the best way to go about creating a character, whether you use a character sheet, whether you use stats, whether you use whatever, for a brand new player? Do you think there's some, like, has never played before? Is there something universal, or is that still going to be a little more, each individual person, it'll be a little different?
So whenever I have taught somebody, whenever I've been in a position where I'm teaching somebody how to play a role-playing game, what I usually do is I go over each part of the character sheet first. So when I was doing this in person with my kids' D&D group, what I would do is I would sit down and be like, okay, what do you want? I start by going, what do you want your character to look like? And they'll tell me, and I'll be like, okay, I think this race in particular would work best for you. And then I go, okay, what do you want them to do for a living? That's the class. And they tell me, oh, I want to be able to sneak stuff. Okay, then you're going to want to be a rogue. Okay, now we're going to go over to the stats. This is what you're good at. And because you want to be a rogue, I will highlight which stats they want to be really good at as a rogue, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. That's what they're good at. They want to sneak. They need to have a high dexterity. Or if they want to be a talky person, they need to have a high charisma, stuff like that. And then I'll go through and say, okay, because you're this class, these are your skills. You get to pick X amount. So I would mark which ones they get to pick from, and they fill in the bubble for which one they're gonna pick. Okay. And I just go step by step so they get to know it. And I'll even have them practice. So I'll be like, okay, I want you to roll a perception check for me. So they have to take their D20, have to find the right die, roll it, and then do some math. And then I would go, but okay, now we're going to go into your background. And I go step by step with them and be like, okay, how do you want your character to be? And I let them look to see. And usually, especially with kids, they go, oh, I want to be a criminal. Not always, but like a lot of kids, especially if they want to play rogue, they're like, I want to be a criminal. I'm like, okay. Or I want to be a sailor. I want to be an entertainer. I'm like, okay, cool. So this is what this gives you. So you can go ahead and fill in other stuff. So I also try to wean myself away from them so they can get used to looking at the character sheet. I have found that with the character builder on D&D Beyond, it is so much easier because it gives you that same step by step by step, which is excellent, especially if you're a new player and you're like, I don't know what any of these things mean.
Yeah.
It gives you a little explanation.
Yeah, breaking it down really does help make it more digestible for people and less scary. So that's huge.
Exactly.
Same question for someone who has a lot of experience. And, people are going to have different initiatives, whether they want like a more complex backstory, if they want something more concise but sharp. How would you go about helping them develop their characters?
So what I did for my Exandria game is as the Dungeon Master, I asked them, what kind of a game do you want? Do you want it to be very fight-based? Do you want it to be puzzle-based? Do you want it to be RP-based? Like, what do you want? And pretty much unanimously, everybody was like, we want a role-play heavy game. I went, okay. So if that's the case, you want me to incorporate your backstory and stuff. And I got a whole lot of yeses. So what I did was for players that wanted it, I helped them write their backstory. So they'd be like, this is my basic idea. I'm like, okay, what if we added this little tidbit? Would that be cool with you? They'd be like, yes, that's amazing. Or no, I don't like that. I'm like, okay, let's keep workshopping. So basically doing like a little bit of a workshop, a character builder workshop for their backstory was super helpful. For a couple of players, they were like, I'm not really into writing like a whole story. So I went, okay, I have a series of 25 questions. How about you answer these questions? And that'll tell me a lot about your character. So, I sent that their way and they typed it out for me. And I was like, okay, cool. It gave me a ton of information that let me know what are some things that I could work into it. And even answering just like, hey, where's your character from? They could tell me, hey, who is a person in your character's life that they respect and would want to protect? All right, who's somebody that you absolutely hate? You can't stand them. Like, it gives me information without them having to write this huge story. Because not everybody is confident in their writing and not everybody's interested in writing. So even having just a little questionnaire for people to answer is super helpful because it gives the Dungeon Master an idea of what to do in regards to backstory and incorporating that into the overall game. But it'll also help players really figure out what they want their character to be like.
Oh, that's lovely. I like that. And it's cool. Like, they really, everyone is so different in what they want. So I like the idea of having a workshop and just being open to like, hey, what do you want? And okay, I'll help you get there.
Yeah, exactly. And if players want to change up something or add something, I encourage it. I had a player give me more details about their character's spouse before they started to become an adventurer and like about the kids that they had and all that jazz. And I was like, yes, this is excellent. I cannot wait to incorporate this into the story. I cannot wait to incorporate it into the game because it's going to be amazing.
More details. Give me them all. Give me them
Give
all.
them to me.
I want them. And I love something I'm realizing more and more as someone who doesn't have as much experience with D&D in general is that, or like with playing D&D, I should say, is the more I learn about it, the more I talk about it, and the more I get engaged with it, I realize like, oh, I can just ask myself, like, what are my driving forces? And it's not that they have to be the same as mine, but it's a good place to start. You know, what is
Mm-hmm.
important to me? Okay, like how you always say, like, who do I want to protect? You know, it doesn't have to be the same person or the same situation, but it's kind of universal. Like, what's in a person, and
Exactly.
start there. Be like, okay, what matters to me? The same things don't have to matter, but where's that emotion or that feeling coming from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So taking in all the things, loving it. So I wanted to ask, well, there were a few things that like crossed through my head, but first I'll just say, do you have anything else that you want to share or talk about in regards to character building that maybe we didn't talk about?
I always make a playlist for my
Yeah.
characters. I always make a playlist for my characters whenever I'm playing something because it helps me get into that headspace, especially like the day of the game. I will listen to my playlist and get into it.
Okay, so I've been posting all of these like tavern music and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to put, oh, I love that. Do you go like make a Spotify playlist with songs, or do you do more?
Yes.
Oh, I love you.
Yes, I do. And like because I've gotten so much character art, especially for some of my characters, especially Nutty, I have like all I like include character art for like the album cover for the playlist as
Oh,
well.
a woman after
And
my own heart.
I just name it after my character. Like my Eliza Trickfoot playlist is clutch because there's like Frank Sinatra, like "Luck Be a Lady Tonight." I've got stuff like that on there. I've got Harry Connick Jr. with a wink and a smile because her thing was she would wink.
That's okay.
At everybody.
Said this because right before we got on this chat, I was thinking about that. I don't know why this was running around my head, but I was thinking about like things I liked that other people could do that I can't, and I'm like, people who can wink just like that. So I'm like, everyone in my life who can do that. I can't. Like I can wink, like, but I can't do. I know people who can like slowly wink, like they just have.
Oh,
So
I don't know if I can slow wink.
It's not even like
not so much.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the slowness, but it's just like the execution. I'm like, oh, I do not have that. What a beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, like my usual wink is like I just get into a quick one.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm sorry I led us astray.
That's okay.
But yeah, is there anything more you wanted to talk about in regards to character building, or do you want to elaborate on anything?
I mean, I try to have like a clear idea of what my character looks like too, because like you get a little information from first impressions.
Yeah.
So like having a character who is dressed like a princess and it seems very elegant, and then the words that come out of their mouth that makes it sound like they're from New Jersey is just amazing and hilarious. So you get all this, you get this, oh wow, this is your first impression, like how do you do, and then it's hilarious. Same thing, like that's another thing I like to do. I like to do character voices. Not everybody does character voices. My husband is not comfortable doing voices, so what he does is he kind of like changes the way he'll say things. He'll like change his demeanor and like kind of do some physical acting along with it because he is not super comfortable doing voices. I, however, will do voices all day because they're hilarious and I love doing voices.
Oh my gosh, you do them really well too. That should be one of your TikTok segments, is like just going in and out of different character voices.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Going from Nettie, who's very awkward, to Eliza Trickfoot, who's very confident. That'd be interesting.
Yes. And I love, just backtracking a little bit, I wanted to mention, like, that is one of my favorite things about, like, one of my favorite types of characters are the ones that present way differently than how they actually act. And that's another thing you shake up with D&D. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you think this is gonna be like this like really macho like Lara does, it turns out they're like this soft, like just want to be in the wilderness. Or you have like the girl who it's like, oh, she seems really like proper, and then she's like swords and madness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gotta love yourself a giant barbarian who likes flowers.
Yes. I mean, those are just the classic like examples that pop into your head, but it's fun to like present one way and have surprises going under.
Oh yeah, no, it was super fun. My players in my Friday game, my Exandria game, they've been working with this elven monk who presented pretty seriously, and they were very business, like we're doing this, we're on a mission, we need to do this. And like one of the players likes to poke
Oh no.
Because that's the character he made. She likes to poke and she likes to be silly and she likes to play pranks and stuff. And she started to wheedle down this character's like exterior. And it was super great because when they finally got to someplace safe, they let down that whole thing. They're like, oh, this is great. We're going to go drinking. Let's go. Let's go. And everybody was like, you're going out with them? Ooh, good luck, because they party hard.
Oh my goodness.
And it was super funny for everybody to see that because literally every place they went, every bartender knew this person.
Like,
it was great.
This one.
They were like, expositor, it's good to see you. Well, I figured I'd bring my friends.
Yeah, it hasn't been a long time.
It was great.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, so many options. There's so much you can do. Endless creativity. Do you have, so lastly, before I let you just explain some campaigns you have open and how everyone can get with you, I want to ask no, that feels wrong. I was going to ask what your favorite character that you've made was, but that doesn't feel right because you can't pick favorites, but maybe like
I know, it's hard.
a memorable process that you had creating a character.
I remember it was when I was still living in New York playing with my college friends. And I wanted to make a character that was a thief. However, in the universe that we were in, I wanted her to be half elven, and in that universe, the elves were very scary. Like, they were ageless, and the older they got, the more like alien they became, which was super neat. But when you were a half elf, you gained a lot of like the whole like looking younger than you are. So she disguised herself to look like she was like 13, like at like a young teenager. She wasn't, but it was the whole like, oh, I don't know, officer, I'm not sure about that, like acting innocent because she found these I knew I wanted her to be a thief, and I knew I wanted her to be this sneaky character who was super charismatic. So I put my points into doing that. And then the interactions she ended up having were very much well, you shouldn't be a thief anymore. And it was super great because I remember we had our level 1 fight. Level 1 fights are always way harder than like level 15 fights or anything because you have so few hit points. Like, it's so easy to like run out of spells and stuff. And it was me and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, our roommate, who was also our best friend, and like a couple other of our friends, but like 3 of us lived together at the time. And I remember at this point, like the whole facade of her being a kid was like gone. Like, it was very clear that she was like a woman in her 20s, and she was really badly hurt. Like, I was hanging on by like 1 hit point in a dream, and my friend Brian, who was my roommate at the time, made this wizard, and he was out of spell slots, and he had a crossbow, but he had no more crossbow bolts. And this was like the best character, one of my favorite character interactions, because there was a goblin rushing us, and his character turned to mine and said, "For the record, I think you're very pretty." And then rolled a natural 20 to clobber this thing to death with his crossbow.
Oh my God.
Not a bolt, but a crossbow. And she was just like, huh. And that like made her take a complete turn. She was like, wait a minute, what? I
wasn't expecting
this. I wasn't expecting this. And it was super funny because our character started to hang out a lot more in game and ended up getting married and stuff anyway. So It was adorable. It was adorable.
That's so sweet. I love that it's your roommates too. I'm like so envious of that, just having an entire apartment or house filled with like these people who are ready to play.
Yeah, no, it was so much fun. I'm still trying to woo my husband in a game that we're playing in right now. I'm like, your character will fall in love with mine, I swear to God.
You've got this. I believe in you. You will carve out that path.
I'm trying so hard.
Oh, it's so awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mahria.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we could do this all day. I know we could. What campaigns do you have open right now?
All right, right now, I currently have quite a few games open, actually. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I am running a couple of one-shots. I've got Sinister Happenings at the Dozy Lamb. That is a 2-hour game where I have level 6 players, and they're going to be basically investigating a tavern because a series of attacks have been going on, and every single victim and every single attacker had a drink or a meal or had been to this tavern called the Dozy Lamb. There's also the Price Manor Mystery, another 2-hour one shot, again for level 6 characters. And essentially, the players have been hired by a nobleman to investigate another nobleman who's courting his sister. And he wants to make sure that, that he's on the up and up. I have a 4-hour game called The Heist Job that is for level 8 characters. They're all rogues. You're allowed to multi-class, but you have to have levels in rogue. And not only are you guys trying to rob a home for a wizard, you're also have been given, each person is given a secret mission that they have to accomplish by the end of the night. So not only are you trying to complete this one big job, you're trying to complete this tiny little job on your own. And on Saturdays, I have a campaign called The Apprentice's Folly, Escape from the Tower of Entropy. And essentially, the players have been accidentally teleported to the top of a wizard tower with a wizard's apprentice who looks frantic and disheveled because all the wards are on and he doesn't know how to turn them off. So he hasn't been able to leave this top section of the tower. So it's a reverse wizard tower dungeon crawl.
What? That's so cool. That's so cool. Oh,
yeah.
Awesome, Mahria. And where/how can people find you, get in contact with you, set up a game with you?
Well, best place probably would be to contact me through, you can contact me through Roll20 because I know all the things are on Roll20. You can also send me an email. Let's see, I got my mastermind email over here. Give me a second. I just need to find it and sign in. I might have to sign it and sign into it. It is going to be, oh no, is it not on here? Curses. Hold on, it's on my phone.
Curses.
I can get there. Curses.
I'm going to pop this up. All right. So everyone can know.
It is mtrepes@mastermindadventures.com. You can contact me through there as well. You can also why are you telling me this, Google? No, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Just let me go back over here. That's not what we want. You can also, I know, if you're on the Mastermind Discords, I am one of the GMs that's on there. My tag on Discord is Trepzilla. Let's see.
Oh, I like that.
It is Trepzilla. And hold on, I'm going to find my little number. Trepzilla 8848.
8848. 8's my favorite number.
Nice.
That's awesome. And then is there anywhere else? I know you do some like awesome TikToks that we posted. I don't know if you want to share that information.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I'm actually,
it's up to you.
I do have I'm a music teacher. I have students. So I don't want them to follow me on TikTok. Oh goodness. I don't want them to follow me on TikTok. But you can find me on mtrepzilla. You can find me on Instagram, same handle @mtrepzilla.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah. Is that? Yeah. mtrepzilla. Yeah, that's you. And I think that's also my handle on TikTok. I'm not very creative with my handles.
It's all good.
It's all good. But typically, if you want to find me on the internet, it's @mtrepzilla.
Yes, and you can always find her as well at mastermindadventures.com. Check out
yes,
her awesome profile. And
my hair's different.
Your hair.
My hair's long and brown.
It's awesome though right now. Your hair, like when you're centered in the window, it gives you this epic aura glow. And I've been like spacing out just looking at like, yes. I need to now I'm thinking, I'm like, how can I set myself up in front of a window? I want the aura.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I kind of framed this really nicely. That works. That works out pretty well.
Yeah, it was a good one. All right, Mahria. So thank you so much for joining me. Everyone,
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming here. I always have so much fun. Everybody, we do our little social spotlights on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so get to know our GMs for hire, have a little fun with us, learn a little bit more, see which personalities suit you best for games, and yeah, just tune in. We have a lot of fun. So once again, thank you, Mahria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and bye, everybody. We will talk to you very soon.
Bye, guys.